Hi, welcome to Biz Today. I am Nazareen Ebrahim. As you know, every week we bring in experts into the studio to talk about various aspects of entrepreneurship, and we also find successful entrepreneurs to get your entrepreneurial game going, or just to inspire you to start your own business. So this week is slightly different. We were privileged to attend the Research, Innovation and Engagements Week hosted by the Mangosuthu University of Technology. Now, the interesting concept with their conference was the theme around that was local, or rather global, engagements for local application. And this is interesting. Why? Because we can take knowledge from everywhere, but how do we apply it locally, and how are we innovative about that? Do we also understand the concept of innovation and what it means across various industries, and what does it mean for you as an entrepreneur? So what does innovation mean? Is it just simply building an app, or can you build a prototype? Or what do you do with that app and that prototype? Now, these are various questions we posed to our guests coming up in the show, and they were really great in helping us to answer them. Some of our guests include the head of the South African Medical Research Council, a professor of cancer research at the University of Nottingham, and also the Deputy Vice Chancellor of MUT. And they've given us a pretty good understanding and insight into how innovation and research really impact how societies and communities are able to grow and thrive and build solutions to challenges they face daily. Enjoy the show coming up.
So I'm going to talk about this in the terms of medical research. We need to understand our local burden of disease, because our local burden of disease we can innovate in that area, and that can make a huge impact in South Africa, but also beyond. And I'll take the example of HIV. South Africans were the leaders of how to manage HIV, and the kind of findings and research that we did in Soweto, in Baragwanath Hospital, informed practice not only in South Africa, but even beyond in America and in Europe. And so if we understand our local burden of disease, we have a huge amount of cardiovascular disorders, a huge amount of TB and HIV. And if we can find solutions for South Africans, we can find solutions for Africa and beyond. And if we understand our local problems, that is important because it helps us innovate. And I'll take the example of banking. South Africa has the most sophisticated banking system, much more sophisticated than in Europe and America. When you make a transaction, you get an SMS on your phone. This doesn't happen in American banking. So that just shows you how far ahead we are of American banking. If you had taken the issue of migrant workers, we had mine workers working in Johannesburg. We have women in a rural area and they need money. And with paperless systems, you can send money to your wife in a rural area. She gets a text. She goes to Pick n Pay or ShopRite Checkers, and she gives them the PIN, and she gets money. And so by understanding our local problems, we can innovate in ways that will help all migrant workers all over the world. A Filipino woman, a man working in Dubai, and this kind of system helps everybody. So I always say, if we really want to innovate and we want to be entrepreneurial, we have to understand our problems, because our problems, the local problem has global ramifications, and by understanding what we do in South Africa, we can help the whole world. So innovation is very simple. It sounds very complicated, but if you have a problem and you find a solution, that's innovation. And you can translate that from finding a solution to a medical problem, like the cure for cancer or finding an HIV vaccine. We have a problem, we ask the question, and we move towards finding the solution. And in the same way, in everyday life, we might have an issue as, how do I get medicines to people in a rural community? And the innovation could be everything from a drone to a bicycle, and that's still innovation because you found a solution. And so I see innovation as a solution, and we find it in everyday life. How we went from nappies that were linen based to disposable nappies. So someone asked the question, do I have to wash these nappies every day? And came up with an idea. Well, why don't we have disposable nappies? And in much the same way, innovation happens wherever we are. People say there must be an easier way to do this task, and make solutions. And so I think innovation is about being curious about how to solve problems. So I'm passionate about finding solutions. South Africa has a huge burden of disease, and we have to find solutions for everything from TB and HIV to non-communicable diseases to diseases that affect women and children, as well as the issues of violence in our country. And so when you have all these solutions, when you have all these problems, you have to find solutions. And so I'm very fortunate to be able to work with scientists in South Africa to ask questions about how to find solutions. And so we asked the question, why do some people get TB and others don't? And how is TB transmitted? And that all sparks a whole area of innovation. And so my job is to make sure that people are asking questions and to find money to solve those questions, to solve those problems that we have by funding science, by funding drugs, diagnostics and devices, and by doing the clinical research so we can better understand the problems that we face in South Africa. And so if you are committed to solving the health problems of South Africa and committed to answering questions, then we are very fortunate in being able to fund science in South Africa.
So when we set up the company from the university, the goal was to try and develop therapeutics that would meet unmet medical needs amongst patients, so would actually transform people's lives. And we had identified a molecular pathway through which we could manipulate how blood vessels grow, essentially. And when we did that, we looked at what was the unmet medical need where blood vessel growth was important. And obviously cancer is a major one. However, it's also a very hard ask to try and get a cancer treatment into the clinic. And we thought there may be other ways that we would be more effective of putting our proof of principle into patients earlier. And the one area that we looked at was an area called age-related macular degeneration and diabetic retinopathy, which are the two leading causes of blindness in the Western world, the developed world. So we started to develop compounds and drugs that we thought would be able to be used in a way that would transform the market. And I think identifying where that market was available was really important. Currently, if you have either of these diseases, you're treated with an injection into your eyeball once a month or once every 2 months for the rest of your life. It's not a pleasant experience. It's not something people want to go through. And the reason for the injection is that the molecules that are being used are large and can't penetrate into the eye. And knowing what we knew about how molecules get across the eye, we thought we could develop compounds that could cross the eye as an eye drop so that you wouldn't have to be injected. And so we set out to meet that goal of developing an eye drop for the leading causes of blindness. And so we went out to potential investors and said, this is what our idea is, this is what we're going to do with it, this is how much money we need to get to a stage where we can increase value of the company. And we raised £750,000, and then over the following year and a half generated enough data to be able to say, actually, this is really possible. This is a very likely candidate. In order to go to the point where we've got a drug that we can give to patients, we're going to need about 5 million. And we went out and raised the additional funding for that. In fact, we raised nearly 7.5 million. So for us as a scientist and an entrepreneur, my viewpoint was, can we translate what we found in the lab to a potential benefit for mankind, and how would we go about doing that? Now, obviously, as an entrepreneur, the important thing is also to make sure you can do that with a reasonable return for your investment. So, if you were to ask me that 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would say I'm primarily a researcher. I'm now at the point where I would say I'm a person, first and foremost. I'm an individual. I work in a community, and I wouldn't put myself into a package of being an entrepreneur or a scientist or a teacher. I would say I'm somebody who likes to take on challenges and meet those challenges in whatever the way is most exciting. It's been a great experience. It's been a fantastic experience setting up the company, going out and talking to investors, finding out how to raise the money to do so, how to engage people in it, how to take on new people who can add value to that company. It's been a fantastic experience, and I think it's something I'm really glad I've done, and I would recommend for somebody who's in a similar position to go away and grasp the opportunity while it's there. What I've learned through it is that we have to continuously evolve to the environment that's around us in terms of taking on new challenges, new examples. We started off in eye research. We've now developed a cancer program. We've got a program in pain. We're continuing to expand those routes. We may have other routes that we're looking at as well. So the company continually evolves. We recently won an award as being the one to watch in angel investment in the UK, which was fantastic. Really nice to see the angel investors recognising our contribution. So I think I wouldn't put myself into any one of those categories. I would just turn around and say I'm somebody who looks at an opportunity and thinks, should we go for it?
The Research and Innovation and Engagements Week, it was my idea because I thought we needed a space to talk about science or research and innovation and how it can impact on solving our daily problems. And so I thought it would be better for me to start that, and we can have scientists from all over the world and locally just to assist us to come up with ideas and also to engage our like Itegu municipality and also business to be able to get funding and to know not to do research that we want to do as a university, but to do that research which is going to solve problems. So talking to municipality will assist us to identify those issues, and then we go back as a university and come up with solutions that are innovative. So that's what it came about. What I'm hoping that this will achieve is also that we would like to talk about how research and innovation can create jobs. How can we use research, science, technology, and innovation to promote entrepreneurship? So, because at MUT we are in the heart of a township, so we need to be a university of technology that actually can provide that. We're hoping that we will soon have a Center for Entrepreneurship and a technology park where we can bus students learners from primary and high school, and also communities to teach them how to innovate so that they can come up with ideas that at a later stage can assist them to create businesses that can employ them and create employment for other people. I don't think so. That's why I think we also have to follow that pattern of other countries, even other third worlds like China and India, and create more science and innovation parks where communities and everybody can come in so that they can understand this term of innovation and how it relates to creating businesses. How can you use the science and technology for the benefit of the communities? How can you use it to impact on socio-economic impact? One of the partners is the University of Nottingham. I think Professor Dave Bates is a cancer scientist and also is an entrepreneur. So we would like to partner with people like that who can teach us how do you then take the science or the research that is happening in the lab and translate it to products that can be commercialized for the benefit of the communities and the country and the world.
MUT is actually situated in the biggest township in South Africa. Umlazi is the biggest township in South Africa, and we all know that in South Africa we have all kinds of problems emanating from unemployment and all other social ills that are associated with that. Therefore, it is very important for MUT as an institution of higher learning to start looking at ways of addressing the social problems that we experience every day. As we are here now, we are at the Research, Innovation and Engagement Week. The theme for this week is Engaging Globally for Local Impact. MUT, through Professor Dlamini's portfolio, has actually realized the need to come up with strategies that will address our everyday problem. So we looked at Umlazi, we looked at the skills levels, we looked at the issue of education, and also we're taking into cognizance the fact that people are innovative. People are entrepreneurial, but they actually need the space to explore their ideas. They need the space where they can be mentored, the space where they can be supported, and the space where they can network with like-minded people. And through the Science Technology Park, that's exactly what we're planning to do. We also take into cognizance the fact that we have researchers, we have academics, we also have partners and stakeholders who are very passionate about building and what we call knowledge workers. We want to have students who can actually communicate their ideas. We want to have students who will be looking around, identifying issues around the world and finding ways of addressing those everyday issues. We also want to invite the community of Umlazi, because if you look at the innovations that we have, innovations do not necessarily have to come from academic institutions and researchers, but they can also come from ordinary people who are experiencing problems on a daily basis, and then they start looking for ways and means of addressing those problems. We want to create a hub for those people where they can come in and even in their own language express their ideas, which can then be translated into a business ideas, create employment for our youth and educate our people and make us a better society. We are fortunate enough that even our Department of Higher Education and Training has realized the need to actually promote and develop entrepreneurship within the HEIs, the higher education institution sector. And I would actually give you just one example that was mentioned by our president, the president of the SRC, during his speech yesterday. He was doing a presentation. He actually mentioned something very interesting. He said that he's sitting here and wherever you go, the youth, actually, which is the larger group of the South Africans that are not employed, they are told to be entrepreneurial. But what he finds odd is that his entire schooling life, he's been taught how to build a CV. Now, this is actually one of the issues that we need to address. We actually, during the early years, we develop kids to look for employment. Then at a later stage, we cannot provide that employment. Our economy cannot provide that employment. Then they are told to be entrepreneurial. Now, what we want to do, we want to address those kind of issues by saying, as early as possible, children need to be exposed to entrepreneurship. Children need to be exposed to innovation, because the very concept of innovation needs to be explored. We always talk about innovation as if it's an everyday term without actually going into details. What does it mean to be innovative? Is it something that is up there, or it's something that we can use to address our very own problems? So we are looking as one of the HEIs at ways of assisting our students to get into the entrepreneurship mode, to get to the mode of really being employers as opposed to being employees. Otherwise, we end up with our graduates taking one internship after the other, because that is the only thing that is available to them. We do not give them the essential skills. That's why it's important for us in higher education to take our part and do our part. Yes, there are other role players, but we all need to have a role to play.
Well, the theme for the Week was engaging globally for local impact. The rationale behind this is, if you are an institution in a township, you tend not to be really recognized. So the whole idea was to bring more global partners into MUT, so that MUT could be well positioned both locally and internationally. We had a number of international delegates coming from across the world, from Brazil, China, India, let me say all your BRICS countries. And we also had delegates from Europe, the USA, and of course, across our country, South Africa. Well, the idea is MUT's research has not really been recognized, but since the arrival of the DVC, Professor Zodwa Dlamini, there's been more focus on how MUT's research could be enhanced. So this whole idea of having this week was to enhance the reputation of MUT, to showcase the work that is being done by our researchers who work tirelessly, and to acknowledge that there are other partners that augment the research that we are doing as MUT. The whole idea is we've been, for many years, been the only university in South Africa that was named after an individual. So when we have global partners, it was critical for us to bring in the founder so that they could connect the name to the face. It was really an honor for him to have attended, because the whole idea is to ensure that we manage our stakeholders. So for him to be in the presence of international delegates means something. But the other critical aspect about doing the Founders Dinner was also to enhance our relationships with our stakeholders, in the sense that we've got alumni who are trying their best to give back to MUT. So it was critical that they be acknowledged for the work they have done. The other reason was we also wanted to showcase that an institution which was founded in 1979 was, for the first time this year, able to deliver its own first master's degree, which is a first master's for MUT and the first master's degree in nature conservation across all the universities of technology in South Africa.
Great. I hope you enjoyed that series of those series of interviews. They gave you some idea of what the word innovation actually means, and whether research, which we understand sometimes as the general public to mean academic insight, actually makes a difference in how we are able to view solutions and take them forward. Now, if you need any more information, go to our Facebook page. You'll find us BizToday _ZA on Facebook, as well as on Twitter. Please tweet us your thoughts, ideas, guests you'd like to see on the show, and please email me biztoday@deentv.co.za or naz@sociallyacceptable.co.za. Until next week, goodbye.